The Business Playbook.
Welcome to the Business Playbook with John Hamilton, the founder of Young and Lazy. Young and Lazy are a network for young entrepreneurs. And John takes us through his journey from professional gamer, where he was able to mix with and network with the people at the very top of their game, to moving into the business world where he really struggled to get that same level of networking opportunity. So he created his own. I was so impressed with John's knowledge. He's like his own self-awareness, the awareness that he has of his business, of his customers, what they need, what he can give them. For somebody so young, the amount of value that he delivers on this podcast is amazing. So if you do get some value from this, please share it with someone who will also get some value. Give us a share on social media, hit subscribe, drop me a message, let me know what you think, and please enjoy this episode of the Business Playbook. So welcome, John Hamilton. Thanks very much. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, mate. Fucking buzzing to be here.
Brilliant. We always start the podcast with the same question. We ask everyone. We believe that everyone is winging it, but you are a professional gamer turned business owner. You run a network for young entrepreneurs. You've got over 80 members. You've got 25 grand a month in retainer. You do one-to-one coaching, and a lot of your business, a lot of the clients that you're coaching are 10 years older than you. Have you got your shit together?
I like to believe that I do. So I thought about this question because when you asked Lewis Kempit when I was at the in-person one, I thought about the fact that I came into entrepreneurship to try and take control of my life. Mm-hmm. So when I think about the fact that I'm winging it actually makes me feel quite uneasy.
Right.
Whereas I like to believe that I'm not. And obviously I believe that as the years are going to go on, I'm going to always reflect back and think, you are talking shit, you were winging it. But in the moment, I like to believe that I'm like in full control.
We were just looking at your calendar before. Is that part of it?
Yeah, 100%. Try to get like predictability. Like I want to be able to like predictably scale on a like ascending levels of projections. Like I remember speaking to Victor very well.
Yes,
I know Victor rolled up to you like randomly in a Starbucks.
It's a hilarious story. I don't know if I've actually told it on the podcast, but I should probably tell it. So probably. I was sitting in a Starbucks, and I was pitching to a client, and I'm just sitting and I was just pitching, like selling my soul. And afterwards, the client got up, shook hands, away he went. Never bought, by the way. But these two wee guys just slid over into the seat that the guy was in, and were like, "Can we ask you some questions about what you were just saying there?" And I was like, "Aye, if you want." So they then were like, "When you were saying this and when you were saying that, we were googling what you were saying, and like when you were talking about that client, we were on their website," and they were basically just sitting there consuming what I was talking about. So I was like, right, okay. So I ended up sitting with them for an hour because they just slid along in Starbucks, and I put them in touch with Nick Garrity, who then put them in touch with you. They started working for you. They joined your network. They're now building like loads. They've now built like serious businesses off the back of the network. That because I introduced them to Nick, who introduced them to John, they've got a decent business. And then I get a text like 6 weeks later from Sean Nichol, and he says, "I've just met your mate in Starbucks." I went, "Who?" He went, "We guy with curly hair called Victor." I went, "What was his guy?" He went, "He just slid over to me and was like, 'Can I ask you some questions about what you were talking about?'" And I was like, "How has that happened?" So I says to Victor, like, you were sitting beside me when I was pitching and you were interested in what I was saying. So, like, what made you slide over to Sean? And he said he had a Rolex on. So he literally just slid over and was like, "Can I ask you some questions?" He's like, "Because you had a nice watch on." So sorry, you were saying Victor.
Yeah, so when I was working with Victor, I had a call with him at one point, and I remember he was speaking about the kind of targets he wanted to hit, and I remember like saying to him that all of his language was around like staying at a certain revenue mark. And I realised that an element of me wanting to be in control is that I want to believe that I'm consistently progressing, and one of those metrics that's easy to track is obviously money. So for me, it's like almost on like a quarterly basis, I expect to be this ascending line. Mm-hmm. And if I believe that I start to lose control of that, or if I feel like I'm winging it, I feel like it would negatively impact that level of ascension and that level of growth. So up here, I'm like, I am in control.
Yep.
Whether or not I believe that when I reflect back in a few years.
We're going to get into this in a minute, right? But one of the questions that I am going to ask you later is, you've got 80 members, but you get 100 applications a month.
Yeah.
So 100 applications at your current membership or your average membership fee would pretty much double your revenue. So you could be doubling your revenue every month.
Yeah.
But you don't. So we're going to come back to why you don't when we get into Young and Lazy. Yeah. But before that, you were a professional game streamer.
Yeah.
This is alien to me. And by the way, I'm not that much older than you, but I'm going to feel old here.
Yeah, so in simple terms, I used to play games for just a living. I literally
Yep.
used to just hop on a game, turn my stream on, and people would come in, they would watch me. Usually people watch streamers for 3 reasons. One, if they're entertaining, they got a bit of comedy, that's probably what you'd be. Second one...
I'll take that.
Wait till he hears the other ones. The second one is if you're really good at a game,
Definitely not me.
people just can't help but like want to watch you and learn. And then the last one is just community. People actually coming at a stream, and like that streamer almost operates like a facilitator.
Yep.
And then the rest of the community kind of congregate together within a stream. So for me, I was more of the kind of tactician. I was really good at the game, and just wanted to build a community essentially. So that gave me my first experience of building a community.
I heard you talking about everybody, all kids when they're gaming want to be professional gamers, right?
Yep.
So, but your mum really backed you on that.
Yeah, 100%. She
You
was
talk to
like,
us a bit about that.
yeah. My mum believed in me in ways that like, see when I reflect on it, it was almost like a delusional level of belief, because gaming was something that was very new back then. Like I went to my first competitive event where you basically go and you play for money. At 14 years old, my gran took me down for my birthday. Like she offered to put me in a wee Premier Inn and all that, and fucking take me down to this event. So, and the prize pool at the time was like $5,000. That was the most that you could make if you won. Tickets would be like 100 quid, like travel and stuff like that. Probably paid like a good 500, 600 quid all in to go down and just play at this tournament. And it's like when I reflect back then, there wasn't much money in it. It wasn't really that big, and
What's,
I was
what's the prize pots now in comparison? Same kind
millions,
of
bro.
Millions, really?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
okay.
millions. Like there's some like huge tournaments. Like if you look at like one of the biggest games in the world is Dota. Dota's prize pools are like 25 million
Really?
and shit like that. Yeah, it's fucking huge, mate. Like even one of the Fortnite tournaments, which was when people started to realise the prize pools, there was a 16-year-old that walked away with 3 million quid off the back of one tournament. Yeah, like just fucking mental, like absolutely mental. Whereas back then, it wasn't anywhere near as big. I remember I got my first check through the door when I won a tournament, and it was like $180.
But is that not when your mum said, right,
that was when
this
she
is
was,
now
yeah,
a job? Like,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is...
That was when she was like, right, cool, you're making money off it. Like, I'm not going to curfew you anymore. She used to turn off the internet at 10. I used to wait to hear her snoring, and I'd get up, man.
Oh,
Just
really?
Keep in, mate, turn it back on. I'd just sit there and just bang it. It was fucking brilliant.
Have you ever seen the video of the guy, the dad, running over his son's games with a lawnmower? So he's like, you're gonna go and get a fucking job.
You gotta get a job while you do it too.
And his son's like, this is my job, Dad.
This is what I want to do. I want a game. I do it. I'm really good at it. Maybe you'll quit playing for a while, get a job, pay some of your bills. I'm never gonna quit playing.
Fucking runs over the games and they go for it. But that attitude of people like that's not a job.
Yeah.
You had to overcome that. But
Yeah.
did you have to overcome that when you had that kind of support?
Nah, like even like I done the kind of, I wanted to basically compete, go to tournaments and stuff like that, and now to like paint the picture of that kind of environment, when you're just going to tournaments all the time, where you're going to end up making your money is like a footballer gets paid a salary each week.
Yep.
So organisations will end up paying you as a salary if you're a professional player, and at that time between 14 and 18, they actually brought in a rule where you had to be 18 plus to play at tournaments. So I had to wait 4 years to actually get to a stage where I could play for money again.
Were these games over 18 games?
Yeah, they were. But like
Right.
prior, it wasn't a problem. So I went to a tournament when I was 14, for example. So it was when I was like, 15, 16, they brought in that rule. So I was
Right.
like, what the fuck am I going to do for a couple of years? So I just
So
went,
that renders you useless for a couple of years
Yeah.
in terms of you can't monetize it,
Yeah.
but you can still...
yeah, you can
Is
still.
that when you started streaming?
So that was where I just went and played some different games. That was when I started getting into like, I basically finished up school, didn't actually have anything to like do after school. So like I missed the window of college, I missed the
Yep.
window of uni. I wanted to be a PE teacher was what I wanted to be, because I was good at football and stuff like that. It's the only thing I ever got an A in was PE. And yeah, I basically just like wanted to do something in my life that I actually enjoyed. And my mum just basically just pushed me massively. She was just like, how much savings have you got? I remember I had like $1.5 grand at the time, and she was like, when lockdown hit, she was like, fuck it, what have you got to lose? Like, buy a PC, start streaming. Like, if you think you can make money off it, you think you can make a living off it,
We're
like,
talking,
just fucking
so
do it.
when you're saying lockdown, so we're talking like literally 2020.
Yeah, literally.
4 years ago.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
when
Yeah.
you started. the
Literally, so I mean,
streaming side.
to fast track, like, I didn't want to go into too much of the details, but when I was 18, left school, had nothing. I asked my mum if I could take a gap year. She said, absolutely fucking not. You're just sitting about, just doing fuck all. I know what a real gap year means.
Aye.
She was like, you're getting a job of some sort, or you need to go to college and do something. So at the time I managed to get a HNC in accountancy, so I had to go in at like literally entry level. Done my 2 years at college, then went to uni.
Yep.
And I lasted 1 semester in uni, and then lockdown happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I basically just decided, fuck it, what have I got to lose? Invested all my savings into it. And I remember I was sitting on the couch with my mum. Mum was like, what have you actually got to lose? You're fucking 20 years old, you've got a roof over your head. Like, just go and fucking do it. And within 2 months, first month I made like $250, second month $400, and then third month I made $2,000. And then
Brilliant.
that's where it actually started to make enough to make it full time.
So through the streaming.
Yeah, through the streaming. Yeah.
Now-
And playing tournaments and stuff like that alongside it.
How scared were you putting yourself out at that point?
100%. I was shitting myself. I specifically like never told.
I was going to say you had a fake name and stuff like that.
Yeah. I had an alias and stuff like that. Like I didn't actually. Nobody knew.
But then, so I heard you telling a story. So we're obviously, this being the business playbook, we're going to really focus on Young and Lazy.
Yeah.
If you are interested in John's gaming background, he done a really in-depth podcast with Dale Crosser on Bulletproof Mindset, where he goes really deep into the gaming side, monetizing gaming, and Dale, as a bit of a gamer himself, he's had a really in-depth conversation. So if anyone's really interested in that part, I highly recommend John's episode of Bulletproof Mindset. Go and have a listen to that, because we're going to get right into the Young and Lazy stuff shortly. But your mates found out.
Yeah. So my mates found out when I went through that kind of transition period of you had to be 18 to play COD, and I was like, well, what the fuck am I going to do for 2 years? So at 16, I decided to go and play a game called Destiny, which was up and coming, wasn't like as big as COD or anything like that. And when I started playing it just because there wasn't any like professional players playing that. After about like 2 to 3 weeks, I became like literally one of the best players in the game. Like nobody could touch me on it, and I thought, cool, I'll just start creating some content around it. I'll start recording my PlayStation, start uploading it on YouTube. I created a new alias again, and first video went up. And I remember I pulled up my phone, I was in my back garden, and when I went on my phone, I just seen like 100+ messages in this Facebook Messenger chat, and there was a lot of @ signs of like me being added in it. I was like, what the fuck is this? Went in, and a few of the boys had found my YouTube channel, and it was just like, what you'd expect, man. Like, who the fuck does this cunt think he is? Like, this is embarrassing. Like, look at this guy fucking creating YouTube content. Who does he think he is? Think he's fucking PewDiePie, KSI? Who does he actually think he is? And it was just like hundreds of messages. And I remember in the moment just feeling like, it's like when you're a kid, you think your whole world's ending all the time.
How old are you then?
16.
You were 6, so you started, you were streaming when you were 20.
Yeah.
But this was before that.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so you're 16, so what did you do?
Deleted my YouTube channel and never done it again.
Until you should have deleted that Facebook chat. You should have deleted that Facebook chat and carried on.
But that's the thing though, when you're a fucking kid, you're so consumed by that shit.
Oh,
you
by
think
the way,
that your whole world evolves around it.
I launched this podcast when I was 32. I was flapping.
Yeah.
Flapping about that exact same thing. People are like, who's the kid? I think it's Steve Bartlett. I don't, by the way. But it's true, when people who start doing that and putting themselves out there.
What was funny was that when I turned 17, a really popular Call of Duty came out, Black Ops 3, and everyone from that group chat started playing Black Ops 3, and everything changed. So my name in the group chat got renamed from something taking the piss out of me to Scump, who was the best player of all time. So I got renamed Scump in the group chat. They then started, I remember I got a phone call one of the times, 1 o'clock in the morning. Guy phones me, mate, this guy in this fucking lobby says he's better than you. Come on, beat him. I'm fucking sick of hearing this. Like, please come on and just play him. And I was like, 1 o'clock in the morning, I was like, mate, no. And he was like, please, mate, like, please just come on. This guy's talking so much shite. Rolled out of bed, mate, sat there in my boxers, smoked this guy, went back to bed. And I came into school the next day, and they were like, oh, how class was that, man? John's fucking nuts. And it was like, I haven't just changed, mate. Once again, it's because
and it's people's attitude towards it. So are they still your mates now? No. Right, okay, that's interesting. No. So you then, I got introduced to you through Nick Garrity, who's a member of your network, has been for the whole time. And we had a catch up, and Nick said to me, we were both at a very similar stage in our businesses. Our businesses are very similar. We're both performance marketing agencies. And we went for a coffee, and the things that I was like, I had gone from being employed in like managing a team of I was in an office where there was maybe 30 people. And I'd bounce off people all day, and then I went into kind of just me. And I said that to Nick, and he said, oh, you should join this network. And I was like, what is it? And he said, get together every Tuesday, we have a call. He's like, it's the most valuable couple hours of my week.
Yeah.
He's like, without a doubt. Right, okay, brilliant. So I then got introduced to you. Nick's still like well in your network, but that's how I then became aware of you and what you do. You told me on that call that you set up in business, or you wanted to move into the kind of the business world from gaming into business.
Yep.
But you went to a couple of like really shite networking events.
Yep.
Do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah. So went to my first networking event. So my mum's in business. She runs a debt collection and credit solutions company. So any like contracts and stuff like that, she does with all that. So when I went to, my mum was like, just had gone into the scene for about a year or so. She was going to things like BNI. She was going to all these other kind of networking events. And she was really enjoying them. And she was like, why don't you come along? And I was like, well, why not? Like, what have we got to lose? So went along to them. And just like what I thought they were going to be, just weren't. Like, it was just people showing up, like, shake some hands. And the first thing they think is, can I make any money off this guy?
100%.
And then if the answer's no, then their whole
They're
demeanour
off.
changes. And they're not even interested.
So the business playbook, I always wanted to launch a podcast, and I've got like screenshots from 2020 lockdown of what it was going to look like and stuff like that. Put it off until I started my own business and met Jamie Hodgson, and the two of us sat down and we were like, he was like, what networking events do you go to? And I went, that one that's a bit shite, that one that's a bit shite. He went, I have went to that one and I thought it was terrible, I hated that one. And I went, why don't we start our own networking event and make it something quite good, like non-stuffy? And then I was like, well, I've actually had this idea for the podcast. So that's how the business playbook in its live form was born. It was like, let's get interesting people, get loads of people in a room, we'll no charge for tickets, stuff like that. But one of the biggest things that we've done was no name badges. And the reason that we've done that is because I felt like if you had someone, like a person of influence in the room, or someone who people would consider at a normal business networking event an important person, someone who everyone can make money off, that one person swarmed. If you've got someone who's there trying to make some connections to try and build their own business, but they're at a different level, these people aren't swarmed. And it's like, I don't want people to walk in and go, oh, that's John Hamilton, he owns Young and Lazy, I can sell to him. Swarm you have a terrible time. And then somebody else who's there actually like putting the graft in, trying to do a bit of networking, also doesn't have a great time. So we just went, no, we'll not have any name badges. We'll not send a list before saying, this person's coming and this person owns this business. This person's coming and this person's a marketing assistant for this business, because you go, oh, I'm going to speak to that person and not that person because that's the person who I need to sell to in my role. So it's just like, no, we're not going to do any of that. We'll make it a thing that people actually turn up and shake somebody's hand and say, who are you, what do you do? And do it much more human. I hated all that kind of networking events. BNI, one of my accountants, like really, really supportive of me, and he's a legend. He's like, do you want to come to BNI? And I went along, and it was like, I can see the value in this, but I just don't think it's for me.
It's like 2 hours every morning of the same shit. There's no like...
Steve's not going to like this. Steve McKenzie is not going to like this.
To me, there's just no nuance to it, man. It's like the same pitches. Like the pitches are somewhat different, but they're saying a lot of the same stuff, and you're going through the same kind of presentation every week. And it just got to a point where it was like, I'm going to spend that 2 hours of my time doing something that's higher leverage, that's going to generate me cash. Like, and I literally started dedicating that 2 hours just learning paid ads, for example. And then now the 100 applications you're talking about a month, they all come through our paid ads.
Right.
So if I spent that 2 hours there, would I be generating 100 applications a month? Probably not. So it's like higher leverage shit to me.
Brilliant. So talk us through Young and Lazy. What it is, where it came from, why people joined in the first instance. So from this is what it is on day one.
So kind of similar like yourself, like I knew that I had to, like, one, do something different. Two, I had a kind of plan for how I was going to do that. So in the gaming space, I met a lot of footballers, I met a lot of big kind of athletes, I met a lot of different people that had big kind of brands. Because the question always is like, how do you start a network without a network? And because I'd not been in business at all, starting a network by yourself is like, I had my mum as like in her network, but they're all like my mum's age. And it's like, I want to start something for young entrepreneurs. So I basically brought in like professional footballers like Dwayne Holmes, who was playing for he plays for Huddersfield, now plays for Preston. Brought in Tom McIntyre, who played for Reading at the time. Brought in.
So you met these guys through gaming?
Yeah. They're all like big gamers. So I was brought in these kind of footballers, And what that allowed for me to do is get volume involved. So when people seen a big name partner with like a new thing, it was exciting. So we probably had like 100 to 150 people kind of rotating through the events that were like every fortnight, and on average we'd probably have an attendance.
These are virtual events?
Yeah.
Right, cool.
And it was probably our attendance was probably anywhere between like 25 to like 45 was like.
I mean, you're monetising at this stage?
Yeah, it was £25 a month.
£25 a month, right?
So
okay,
like
cool.
fuck all. Literally
What's your average retainer now, to give context to the viewers or the listeners?
Also, we've got different tiers now, mate, but I mean our basic tier is at least £297 a month.
£297 a month is your kind of entry level now, but it's £25 a month.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Well, obviously it's not like then when it was networking events, the thought process was get as much volume as possible and then cherry pick the individuals that I believe are going to fit what I want your YNL to turn into.
Really, right? Okay, so that was already on the card. You already thought, I'm going to create a network of high performers that I'm going to charge more, but let's get them in the door.
Let's get the volume going. So after we of those 100-ish people that were coming through, obviously a large of them were coming through like my mum's network as well, so like different age and stuff like that. There was 3, one of which was Andy, funnily enough. Who I know we'll talk about at some point.
We've just had Danny from Hoko in a couple of hours before you, and he said that his biggest piece of business luck was meeting what's now his managing director.
100%, mate.
And I think I launched into said you need to listen to John's podcast. Mark Glasgow from Edinburgh Oil Company's in the room. He's joining us on the podcast in a couple of months, and he says the exact same about his managing director. And it's like when you meet that person that's going to bring that amount of value to you, it's just a pure stroke.
It's life changing, mate. It's life changing because like when I think back to people I'd met prior or wanted to go into business with potentially, you're doing it mostly out of like fear and the fact you're doing it yourself and you're shitting yourself and you're like stuff's going to go wrong, and kind of feels a bit better if we're both on a ship that's going down rather than me just sitting there not knowing what the fuck I'm doing all the time. Whereas with Andy it was completely different. I'd already had a couple of business partners prior and kind of other things that I'd tried, and when I found Andy it was like, which by the way my close mate Ollie, who runs an email marketing agency,
I've met Ollie.
He scraped his first ever list he ever scraped. So he literally just found out about email marketing. He was like, do you want me to scrape a list for you of just like young entrepreneurs? And I was like, defos. Scrapes a list. We're sitting on a call going through these Instagram ads, and it was like Andrew Ellis __, and I typed in my phone and I was going through his content and I was like, this guy looks alright, you know, this guy could be a fucking class networking event client, this could be fucking dynamite. And Ollie was like, message him. I was like, fuck it, no worries, just message him.
He's Glasgow, was he Glasgow based?
He's like based in Greenock,
right,
so he's a bit out, but I literally just dropped him a random message, took like a week, played hard to get, didn't reply to me for like a week. Then he replied to me. And he came along to a networking event and he was fucking brilliant, like absolutely brilliant. And fast track to now, I mean that's been like 2 years he's been a co-owner for.
Right. So did you right away want to bring him in as a co-owner? No, was he an employee? Was he a member?
He was a client.
He was a client.
He was a member first. And he was one of those, so when I said I cherry picked 3 to kind of be part of the vision long term for YNL, he was one of the 3 that we picked. That was like, this guy's going to be fucking shit hot as a client. And then he evolved from a client into, I took him for a fucking 5 guys and sweet talked him, and he was like, sound, let's do it. And Andy's so accomplished though. That's the thing that, see, Andy's doesn't fucking talk about any of the shit that he's actually done in the past. Like I know for a fact Mark wouldn't have, because Mark's been obviously working with Andy in the Notion side of things. I guarantee for a fact Mark has no idea some of the shit Andy's achieved. Like he scaled a crypto and NFT channel to like just shy of 10k subscribers, amassed over 800,000 views from nothing. Nobody knew who he was. Like he literally came into an environment, dominated the YouTube space within 11 months. He built that. Paused it, then went into something else. Started doing like habit building coaching and stuff like that. Fucking an amazing coach. Absolutely smashing it. Clients fucking loved working with him. He then went in and started coaching for another kind of high ticket coach. People were literally going to sessions because he was there and he was shit hot. And on top of that, like Andy's a serial investor, mate. Like he invests in so many things. Like it's fucking ridiculous, and you would not even think that he's.
Is that from the money that he's made from the?
It was like crypto, like other. Like, he made a lot through YouTube as well when he was doing the YouTube content. He was a streamer like me as well prior, so he had a streaming platform. He was averaging like over 100 viewers, like which is quite a lot. 100 people concurrently watching you every step of the way. So he was one of the only people like myself that got to the kind of 1%, the top 1% of Twitch, which was if you amass over 1,000 subscribers, that's where you basically, that's like the 1% mark. So that's what makes you $2,500 a month.
How many subscribers was that?
So on Twitch, Andy got
Twitch, right.
over 1,000. On YouTube, it was just shy of 10k he got to, and like he's just monetizing that through YouTube and Twitch.
And is he still doing that now?
Well, he started doing Notion content.
Right.
Check out the YouTube. Yeah. He's fucking the Notion guy. The Notion guy.
Yeah, he's
wizard.
definitely going to be the Notion guy.
Yeah,
It's funny because
100%.
I was just checking this. So Sean, who works with me, he launched his YouTube channel it was years ago now, but he was a sniper in the army, and he launched a YouTube channel basically commentating on combat footage. I'm just checking. He's got 85,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he's had 12 million views.
Yeah, it's mental.
And it's just like he was monetizing that as well, and it was like he was made redundant at his work.
Yep.
And his YouTube money
Get
the roof over his head, and he was making good money off doing that.
It's a fucking serious skill, mate. Like that was one of the things when I was going to Andy. It was like Andy knows how to build a brand. Like he's got like a decent following on Twitter as well, which he never uses anymore. And it's like he knows how to build a brand on any platform. He's amazing in front of a camera. He knows how to edit a camera incredibly well. But there's all these other things that Andy's incredible at. He's an incredible coach. He's an incredible person. He can make you feel fucking amazing on command. Like he lifts the room. See when he's like off on holiday and stuff like that, and I have to take sessions, mate. I'm like,
so do you not take sessions?
I do. I play a part in the planning of the sessions and the building of the sessions.
Because you said to me, I messaged you about your conference that you had in Manchester recently, and you were like, an introvert running a network is not a good thing, and I was like, well, talk to me about that. So you feel like you are an introvert, but you really push yourself out your comfort zone to run the network.
Yeah, like I believe any introvert can like get kind of an extrovert switch if they really want to. And as for me, like I've got that extrovert switch that can come on whenever I want, but see if I stay in that extrovert mode all the time, that's where I start to feel like I'm going to burn out. So like for me, working on the business time, for example, that's where I'm in my best, I'm in my element. 5:30 alarm, at my setup for 6, I'll sit from 6 until 10, 11, 12 with ease, working on a shit ton of stuff by myself, dialed in. And it's like when I think about the kind of introvert part, it's like those networking, like that networking like environment where we'll host a big mastermind. Like that was like 3 days in Manchester. We had the elite mastermind group, the Immortals, on the Thursday. That was a team bonding day. We then had a strategy day on the Friday, and then we had the full mastermind on the Saturday where all the members were there. And
just to interject, you've also been on how many podcasts in the last 6 months?
Been on like a handful as a guest, but I've done like.
But you've hosted what 60, 70 podcasts yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's been over the course of like a year and a half. And
Still doesn't sound like an introvert.
I know, but it's like you know you need to do it though. That's the thing. Like it's like I can say.
Do you do it because you enjoy it, or do you do it because you want the end result? Like as in to grow the business and all. Like, do you actually enjoy it while you're doing it?
I enjoy it while I'm doing it now, but I think I enjoy it because of the like extreme exposure of like streaming. Like see like having cameras on you 24/7. It is quite a mentally taxing thing. Like I realised that. So like for example, I could sit and play games. So prior to when I started streaming, when you're competing and not streaming, I could sit and play for like 12 to 15 hours a day and like be pissed that I'm hopping off and going to bed. Whereas when I was streaming, 10 hours max before I literally was like mentally zapped, like just fucked.
It's funny. I'm kind of expecting it after like loads of podcasts in a day as well, because this is the first time we've done more than one podcast in a day, and like it is quite intense to be on
100%.
that. It's funny when you talk about that. So I know you had John and Lewis from Prime Property Auctions on your podcast, so they're clients of mine, and they have, I don't know if you've been into their office or they've got their media guy, but there's cameras everywhere. They're wearing cameras, there's cameras on their computers, and there's just like a content factory all the time. And they say that they bring in people who are used to being on camera. But then they're sitting having a meeting, and then the camera guy comes in and they go like rigid and feel so uncomfortable with it. And even like you and I both talk about recording like I'm quite comfortable now sitting. I know there's cameras on us. But we start to, when we record the intro, it's like you start to stutter and you don't enjoy that part of it.
100%. I think it's just because like that part's like planned, whereas everything else is like free flowing and supernatural.
So where did the idea come from, and why young entrepreneurs? Why not a gaming network? Why was it young entrepreneurs that you wanted to make a difference to or get involved with?
Because when I went to, so one of the things I didn't say, when I went to those networking events, they were so shit that it made me not want to go into business. So I was just like, I'm just going to keep doing this streaming thing. I'll just do that for the foreseeable future. Like, because they were that shit. And then I remember I was sitting at one point, I think I was sitting with my girlfriend Bex, and I was like, if I'm feeling this way, then there's probably other people that are feeling that way. And eventually that's where it just kind of clicked, and I was like, I could just be the guy that just creates a network for young entrepreneurs. Like, I know I'm my ideal client, I know what they want, I know what I want. Let me just create an environment for it. And with the gaming stuff, it's like, it's an interesting one, man. Majority of gamers, I'd say 95% of them, maybe even more, are fucking skint. And their money mindset is shot, and their attitude towards majority of life out with gaming is fucking terrible. Like, it's so easy to stand out in that space nowadays by just having... See the people at the top of the game world, see if you go on Twitch and you just look at the top streamers, you can tell from a fucking mile away how dialed they are, and majority of them aren't. Majority of, like, gamers aren't. Because a lot of times, like, gaming is something that's so easy to do at a large volume. Low bar to entry, easy to do at a large volume because you enjoy it so much. Business... There's so many parts of it you don't fucking enjoy. There's so many things that you need to do, and it's like the business is the highest leverage game. It's the most exciting game. It's a game where you can make the most money. This is a game. Right. The gaming side of things, you're playing a literal game, but it's so easy to fucking do.
It's funny, my mate Oliver Yonchev is the chief executive Flight Group,
and
he talks a lot about people. This misconception that you need to find your passion, find the thing that you're the most passionate about, and he's like, there's so much of my job that I'm not passionate about. He's like, I'm passionate about parts of it. He's like, but there's so much of the bits that I actually need to do to be able to make this work that I'm not like super passionate about. He's like, but it's having enough passion in that that stuff complements it.
You start getting drawn towards like the end goal. So like I've started to reflect more and more. Like part of working with Phil Graham, for example, was that we didn't
We're going
really
to get onto that in a minute.
We didn't really have a big like crusade or a big kind of mission that we were on. And we were so like focused on like the here and now that for me, like I'll do the hard shit every single day, because we were talking about personality tests before. My personality test that came back was that I was a defender. I like to protect and serve, protect others, do anything for others, be almost like a bit of a people pleaser. I've learned to do that for the right people, and I think that's a big part of running a network as well. The vetting process is going to be so important. You're going to get people that are going to want to come in. When you ask about the applications part, the reason we turn away, like, see that. I was going to say, what
percentage of people do you actually turn away?
I mean, you're talking, I done the maths last month, and it was like over 100 applications, and we took 35 calls.
So it turns away 65 people that have applied, that are, like you described it as, they've got their credit card in their hand and they want to give you money. And you're saying, no, enough for us. Why?
Because like the long-term vision of the actual network itself. So I have came across so many people, mate, that are numerous different reasons. One, they want to come in so they can sell to everyone else. Two, I can always tell, like, there's some individuals that, like, I can tell through their application will say shit like, I'm not really that interested. I just want to know what you can do for me. See that shit, man? Get that to fuck. Like, get that so far to fuck, man. Like, I just want to know what you can do for me. Like, you're interested somewhat. Stop playing hard to get, man.
So
like,
the concept of BNI, which is givers gain, which is like, you're not here to sell. You're here to help everyone else and in turn get the help. Is that concept almost what you're looking for? Although you don't like the execution of BNI, is that like mantra similar to what you want?
See if they actually live by that, be shit hot. I don't actually believe they do.
Fair enough. No, it's a fair assessment. I know what you mean. People are obviously there for a reason. Do you think that all your guys are there for the camaraderie, the network, to help each other?
Yeah, because they've all been vetted to make sure that they're not coming into like.
One of the questions I asked you when we went out before Lewis Kemp's podcast, which is now live on YouTube, by the way, was what happens when an arsehole comes into the network? What happens if they pass the vetting stage, but they just turn out to be an arsehole? I
have had some mental stories, like mental. I know I said to you nothing's off the cards, right? But
there's a guy. I think I've told you one
at some point. Like, I had a guy that literally came into the group that tried to fire into my girlfriend on an actual Zoom event. Swear to fucking God.
You want this guy at the podcast?
Nah, it's fine. Nah. Fuck it. Fuck him anyways. Fuck it. But
he didn't last long. But again, it's you said to me, like, basically fire quickly. Like, 100%. Don't let them.
You need them out. Like, it can be cancerous, like, to the rest of the group. I think at a smaller stage, like, if you're starting a network and you're in those kind of early 10, 20, 30 odd members, that's where it's so important to not even let them get in.
Aye.
Like, you need to be so anal. If you have any uncertainties, your gut instincts flaring up, just don't even take the risk. Whereas,
See, what you've just said,
Yeah.
I worked with Jason Healy, who's the founder of Blue E6.
yeah,
And he told me a story about, he says, I'd walk into the office and he's like, I'd be like, that guy's an arsehole. Like, we're getting rid of him. So he'd phone HR and he'd go, I'm going to fire this guy. And they're like, you can't just fire him. But fine, if you want to start the process, we can do that.
yeah.
And he'd go like, right, that's fine, no bother, put the phone down. Excuse me, can you come in here? Like, you're gone. Like, get out. And then he'd phone HR back and he says, I've got a video of him saying it. He goes, did it. Right? And they're like, you can't do that. And he's like, he's going to sue us. And he's like, let them sue me. He's like, because the cost that I'll incur from them suing me is far less than the cost if I let them sit there and spread their poison throughout my team. He said, and the example he gave me, he said, if you got like a bit of like skin cancer here, he's like, you wouldn't be like, oh fuck, that's a bit of pain. Like, give me a shout when it gets to my brain.
Yeah.
He's like, you'd be like, no, like we need to treat that right away, get rid of it before it spreads throughout the rest.
Yeah.
So that was the analogy that he gave me, and it's like what you say.
It's the exact same.
If someone was paying to be in a network and that was full of arseholes, they wouldn't be there very long.
100%. And I think that's like, we've always had like a community focused offering, which obviously we're kind of evolving more now, but it's something that like, when it's just a network or just a community where people are coming together on a regular basis, you really can't have C and D level clients. You need all A's and B's. You really fucking can't have any like dead weight. It's like having a fucking, like Hormozy speaks about it with like sales teams.
Yep.
If you have fucking 8 out of 10s, 9 out of 10s, and then you have a 2 out of 10, that 2 out of 10 will anchor everyone else down.
So Callum White, Callum White in the podcast, and he talks about he's got a board in his office and it's got everybody's numbers, how many properties they've sold, how much they've generated and all that. And he's like he pays his guys are commission only. So he could actually have 1,000 guys out there if he wanted to. But he doesn't allow zeros on the board. He's like, because if we had 1,000 guys and 3 guys and girls, he's like, and there's 300 zeros. He's like, that makes that all right. He's like, but what we want is for like zeros are unacceptable here. He's like, we can't have all of the zeros on that board. And it's exactly what you say. It anchors that team down.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like the volume. So like,
the volume. So not allowing people to drag that.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. So like
down.
the thing is as well, like, when I'm at the forefront and I'm the one selling, or like I was prior, it was so easy for me to understand through all the shitty experiences I'd had, like to know what to look for. Now, when we brought in our first couple of employees, they were on the sales side of things. And that's where...
So talking about that, when you brought in these employees, what sparked that? What made you go, right, we're going to take that?
Yeah, so Jack was like my best mate for years. He was like the one supporter from like a friend perspective that really supported the whole game and stuff. He was also big into gaming himself. And Jack was someone that is a natural extrovert. Like, even like as an example, like, I remember one of the times he was telling me a story about how he was meant to be going out for drinks with someone else. The other individual was running an hour late. So he was like, fuck it, I'll just go into one of the bars. Went into one of the bars. By the time the mate had arrived, he had a table of 10 people around him. And he's just like talking away, having a fucking class time. See, if that was me, mate, I'd be sitting in my car. I'd be like, I'm no fucking, I'll just wait, I'll sit and fuck it out. Like, he's someone that was a natural salesman, but he worked 7 years as an IT technician.
Right.
And I remember just like...
you said he hated it, eh?
Yeah, he fucking hated it. And it was like, for me, it was like... that whole defender, people close to me, I want to like bring out the best in him, and also I believe so much in Jack. Like I'd seen him in the gaming side of things. He was the only player, like when we were gaming COD-wise, that I had 100% belief in. And it's like that level of belief can be transferred into business. If I give him the right skills and the right resources, he'll become fucking exceptional at something, and at that point I know that I'm going to have 100% belief in somebody.
Right.
So
you don't subscribe to your pals or family, you literally work with both pals
100%.
and family.
My whole the whole team just now is like, even like I was like, Andy wasn't a mate prior, but like Andy is, I remember we had a conversation at one of the, like we went to a client's wedding recently, and I said to him, I was like, who's going to be your best man? And he was like, it'll be my brother and you.
No, it's class.
And it's like that type of relationship, mate, is something that like I don't believe in the whole like just treating your employees like they're just fucking numbers. And I understand that as like with volume, you're not going to necessarily have that type of relationship with fucking everyone. I'm completely aware of that. I'm not naive to the fact that might change. but it's something that, like, when it comes to the relationships I build with the people that are closest to me, the reason I like business and friendships to be intertwined is because business is the one constant that I am constantly obsessing over.
Right.
That naturally friendships will get neglected if I'm not, like, when I'm fully in the zone and I'm in a season I know and I'm fucking not talking to anyone and I'm just locking in all the time. The easiest way for someone to be within my life at that point is to be within my business or to be a client or to be, like, within that kind of immediate range. So for me, it was like the one way that I could have them kind of intertwined. Also, on top of that, like, the shit that I spoke about in Daniel Levy's podcast as well, the mistakes people make when it comes to hiring friends or hiring people with family is that they don't set the right expectations. They soften the expectations to begin with, so they make it sound like it's going to be easier and better than it actually is.
I think I know where you're going to go here.
And they don't.
Like, is this about the level of expectation you had from your mum getting involved?
Yeah, I said to my mum, I was like, Mum, you're shiting these calls, you're out. No, like that, but like my mum knows that, like,
no, she recorded every call. There was a minimum, there was a service level agreement. Like you had it all. It was like, this is what I expect, and like
100%. Like there's like a genuine like level of expectation that is actually far beyond what the actual expectation will be. So I go the other end of the scale. I go really extreme. This is what your day-to-day is going to look like, and I really fucking push them, and I really demand a lot from them, and then the reality is that I'll be scaling that back. They won't need that level of intensity, so they survive at that
intentionally.
intensity.
You do that, like, so you do that intentionally.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
I make it
That's
super intense.
Right.
Also have like a 3-month trial period. So I was in a discussion with my mum, I was in a discussion with Jack, Reese, they've all done it. It was like, we're going to have a 3-month period where, like, this is a trial. This is a trial period to see if we enjoy working together. I was actually brought in by Andy. See, when I offered Andy, like, shares within the company, he said, I'm not signing that until we've worked for 3 months together. And then he offered to work for 3 months for free, didn't want any money, he just wanted to see what it was like for us to work together. And it was like, fucking class. I wish everyone would fucking do this.
This is good because we're pretty much ticking off as we go with like the kind of plan. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was retention for a number of reasons. You've retained a lot of people within your network. The question I asked you was, if you are bringing people in to the network and they are getting access to the rest of the people in the network.
Yep.
For example, like Nick, Connor, CJ, Alan are all members of your network, but they're all mates now as well.
Yep.
What stops them just going, actually, we don't need the network anymore because we know each other and we can meet up every Friday, we can sit down, we can have a call every Tuesday morning, and we'll do an away day once a quarter.
Yep.
And what stops people from doing that?
Because people like to believe that shit's actually easy to organise and to get everyone established on the same page from a priority standpoint. But it never is, man. Like, think about how much shit, like, all of us in this room, we've probably committed to a lot of stuff like that, where it's been like, we'll meet up once a week.
There's a lot of people in the room, not in the room, who committed to be here because, that's got in the way or that's got in the way.
And that's always going to come up, man, especially when it's like, I think as well, people underestimate what it takes to, like, plan and prep for sessions to make sure things are tailored directly to the type of businesses within the environment. Like, it's something that, like, people always underestimate the actual workload that comes with that, especially with being a facilitator in that type of environment too. Like, your job, or like my job for the last couple of years, is literally to be to hop on these sorts of sessions and go around and give as much value as humanly fucking possible. Like, you really need someone in that selfless position to do that. Otherwise, like, eventually it just gets to a stage where you're all just kind of like, so what are we doing here? Like, is there, like, do I need to be here this week? Or do I, like, I'll just come next week. And it's like, there's a level of consistency that gets put in place. And I think one of the things I said to you before is that with Nick and stuff like that, it becomes a part of the routine. It becomes almost like a safety net as well. And it's our job to make it constantly better, to innovate, to make it exciting all the time. Like, if I just done the same old shit every week, 100% people would leave. But it's different every week. And that's one of the key parts of it, because there's a level of people need. I remember I went to a Tony Robbins event and he spoke about the fact that people need certainty, but they also need uncertainty. So if you give them too much of either, they get bored. Or if they give them too much of certainty, they get bored. If you give them too much uncertainty, it's like,
it's chaotic.
It's the whole life is just like fucked. And people need a mixture of both. So it's like, the certainty is the things you're talking about. The people like, there's an aspect where Nick, every time he shows up, he knows who's going to be there. He knows who he's going to talk to. He knows the questions he can ask, all that sort of shit. But there's uncertainty is the sessions, the masterminds, the fucking quarterly retreats, the fucking, like, all these other different aspects, the resources going out. Like, now we've got, like...
I was actually going to, because we kind of stopped at £25 a month.
Yeah.
We only got to
Yeah.
the networks at £25 a month. But now you're delivering so much more value for people, and you've at least 10x that retainer just to your minimum level. But you've now got people, what's your like, if you're happy to share, what's the maximum retainer that people pay for you on these?
1.5 for like the one-to-one consultancy, but the Immortals is what, 497, probably going up to 597 in the near future.
Do they know that? They've just found it.
No, the current members. I always keep like legacy clients as the price that they join at.
That makes sense. Right, okay. So everyone's
whatever price they've came
whatever
at.
Price they've came at, that's clever. Right, okay.
It makes it like see try to get it's like, I'll give you a fucking perfect example for this, right? I went fucking 9 years, right, getting my hair cut for free because my mate's ma cut my hair, right? To get a haircut, it costs like what, fucking 20 quid, right? Through business and stuff like that, me and this mate just kind of like naturally stopped talking. I ended up only texting him once a month so that his ma could cut my hair, and it was like, it just got a bit weird. I was showing up to his gaff, and I was like, we were best mates at school, but we're not really anymore. And eventually that relationship just ended, right? See, the first fucking few times I had to draw out 20 quid for a haircut, mate, I was like, fuck, man. I used to get this fucking shit for free. Now I'm paying for it. And it's like, you're having to shift that mental block. So someone's paying 150 quid a month and you go to them and go, yeah, by the way, it's 250 now. It's like, their like expectation is set on that previous price, and they associate the value they're getting with the money they're making. So it's
100%.
like, it's really hard to shift, and it's something that, like, if you increase the pricing, and what people always say as well is, oh, but John, what if the new members find out they're paying more than the current members?
Good.
And I was like, well, the fucking current members literally were here when it was less of a, like, less value, like, and they also believed in us at a stage where we weren't providing anywhere near as much value, so they deserve to be at that price. And if you've got a problem with that, then we're probably not the right network for you then. So yeah, the whole legacy client thing is an easy workaround.
So I never thought of that if somebody came in when it was £97 a month, they're still on that. It makes sense, and like, it's not having to have that. The question of increasing prices, you can increase your prices with new business without having the difficult conversations with active clients who are paying your bills and saying, by the way, your price is going up. You can those people will actually just get more value as your retainer increases, and they're getting even more value because they're getting it at a lower price.
And don't get me wrong, you can go to clients and, like, if you're fucking over delivering like crazy, like even like Mark's in the room, I know for a fact Nick has made you a mental amount of dough, right? Nick Gary, mental amount of dough, to the point that if he was previously charging, say it was 500 quid a month, right, and he'd only just started out, and then he came to you and he said, he becomes part of your, like, part of your ecosystem and stuff like that.
Delivering that amount of money,
and if you're delivering, if he came to you and said, say he was previously charging 500, and he goes, right, Mark, I've made you an extra fucking 100 grand off the back of you paying me 500 quid a month. That was over 2 months. Your ROI is 100x because you only paid me $1,000 over 2 months. I think it's a bit fair that you pay me maybe 1.5 instead of 500. Of course, Mark's going to be like, aye.
That makes sense.
Like, fucking let's roll with it. Whereas a lot of people...
As long as Nick doesn't watch this episode.
Just got to say that. I'm going to say no comment.
But the thing is like, the problem that people run into is that they increase pricing from a selfish, I feel like increasing pricing because I feel like I'm delivering enough value. See that feel bullshit, man? Like, draw down the fucking numbers, get really clear on what you're providing, get really clear on the type of value they're getting. Right. Otherwise, when you go and you offer something like that, or you say you're increasing pricing, there'll be a lot of clients that are unhappy. And sometimes that'll work, by the way. See if you go from, say it's 197 to 297, that's a 50% increase in pricing. You need to see
100% increase in value to be happy with that.
Yeah. And also on top of that, it's like if I go from, let's just say for number's sake, because it's easier, say it's 150 quid a month and you go up to 300 a month. Like, you can lose half the client base but make the same money. So I understand why people do it from an aspect of like increasing pricing, and sometimes it is like just easier to do it that way. But for us, we stuck to that philosophy, and it's served us well.
You also need to be able to show the value. So I spent 10 years selling radio advertising, and you'd go in and see somebody, you'd take 100 grand off them, you run a radio campaign for them for a year. You go, obviously you're in touch with them throughout that, but you go in at the end of that campaign and be like, well, how did it work? And it's like, well, I don't know. Like, it's busier. We've done more business. Our business has grown, but people aren't coming in going, I heard you on the radio, so now I'm in here to buy this.
Yep.
Performance marketing is a wee bit different, where you can see, like what you're saying with Nick and like with my business, where you go, right, this is what you spent, this is what it's delivered, this is what your conversion rate is, and you can kind of look at, this is what your cost per acquisition is, and when you can then show that, how do you show that as a network? How do you show if I join your network, how do you show me the value that I'm getting from the camaraderie, the network? Like, how can you like quantify it?
So there's different aspects that we had in place up until now. We would track people's wins all the time. We would track, like, we would consciously, whenever a client has a win, it's like, cool, what was the turning point that allowed for you to implement that? Where did that come from? Where did that stem from? Was it one of the sessions? Was it a person? There's always a way that you can trace it back if you dig a little bit. Just one question. If someone comes with you a win, by the way, as well, and they're like, I just fucking done this, I just closed a client and it was fucking class, and it's like amazing, celebrate, buzz with them, and it's like, what do you think the turning point was, by the way, for you to get that call or get that close? And they go, oh yeah, it was that session fucking 3 weeks ago, you know what I mean, when you were talking about your sales
so you
framework.
can then allocate it towards, right, okay.
So there's an
that makes
aspect
sense.
where it's your job to ask that question, go a little bit deeper to get them to trace back to the point where they believe the turning point is, and it's then your job to. I remember, I'll never forget, we offboarded a client who was fucking class. She was brilliant.
Offboarded, that's not something you hear a lot, because nobody wants to offboard, everybody wants to onboard. Like, it's not something that you hear
Maybe
a
their
lot.
mindset will shift when I tell them my story. So
Like,
I
go
went
for
to
it.
offboard this client, and one of the things, she'd been a client for ages, mate. She was fucking class. She was an amazing digital freelancer as well. She was the best that we'd ever came across, and it was like, it was just natural for us to like do it properly, like, and properly offboard her. So we had a call, and part of that call was that we sent her a Notion document that had all of her wins that she'd ever achieved through YNL. So at the start of every session on a Tuesday, this is where we need Andy's energy. Andy will go through everyone's wins. Like, what is your biggest win of the week? Put it in, and we document them in Notion. So whenever we go into Notion, we can just type in a client's name, Nick Garrity, see all his wins for the last 2.5 years.
Yep.
And it's like, Andy basically went into this client's database, pulled all the wins, put them in a Notion doc, and on the offboarding call, let's just ran through them. She was fucking buzzing. Like, she was like reliving like all the previous experiences she'd been through. Within 2 months, she was back. She just texted, she says, I'll be back, I missed it. And it's like, well, you offboard a client properly, mate, they should. It's what actually something that Stephen Bartlett spoke about within one of his books, that new business laws book or whatever. Two specific moments that a client, when a client's going to rave about you, talk about you, they usually refer to two very specific moments. One is the peak of their emotion when they were with you. So it's either a really good moment or a really bad moment. Yep. That's usually what they'll refer to. The second thing is how the relationship ended. So if the relationship ended poorly, like I had a coach that I was working with, and they were class at that time of working with them, but the relationship got so dull and shite and the same repetitive stuff that it was like, that's all I can remember now. Do you know what I mean? That's all I reflect on. It's like when people speak about like, so like my grandpa passed a couple of years ago, and it's like when I think about my granda, I only really remember what it was like the last year or two that he passed.
I know what you mean, aye.
And it's the same shit in business, man. You only really remember like the shit towards the end where it feels a bit shite and it's not really that good, and it's like, it's your job to like actually offboard them and help them relive all those experiences. And it's harder to do with volume, don't get me wrong. And like,
is that offboarding process?
Yeah.
Was that something you done naturally, or was there strategy in that? Was it a case of let's show them how much value we gave them so that they come back, or was it let's just take this time and
for Chloe, who was the client, she was just like, it just felt right.
Right.
And when I say it felt right, like, she was such a lovely, kind and caring person that I was like, now that she stopped paying, we're not going to just be like, see you later, Chloe, never speak to you again. It just felt right. And then, because when it feels right as well, that's just an authentic feeling, right? It's just that it's your values shining. So.
But you learned from that, and now you do that with anyone that was... Brilliant. Right, okay. And that's why businesses have like exit interviews with people as they're leaving.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, mate.
What they can learn from it.
Don't get me wrong, like there's some clients that like we won't offer it to because we know that they're not interested in it. Like say they just leave because
So
They've
this is
got
what I was going
shit
to say,
coming up
right?
and
So
stuff
see
like
that quantifying process.
Yeah.
You must have the odd client who doesn't really want to give you the credit for that success, right? So we done a TV campaign for a client recently, right? And Windows Doors Conservatories Extensions client, and they're doing TV with us now. But when you're a marketing agency, clients don't always want to go, oh my God, this is amazing, right? So they want to kind of hold it back so that you work hard for it, right? So I phoned them up and I was like, how's it going? Aye, it's busy. I'm like, brilliant. You actually took a month off the telly because it was too busy.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's brilliant. That's exactly what we want. And he's like, well, I mean, it could be the telly or it might not be and all that. And I'm like, right. Then I phoned the marketing manager and he was like, that telly is brilliant. He's like, I can't believe the difference we've seen in our business for that. And I said, I've just spoke to your boss who said, I don't know if it was that. He says, I've just left a meeting with him and he says, we're never coming off the telly. It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but he doesn't want to tell me that.
Yeah.
Because you must get that with people, like they've got a win in there, but they didn't really want to allocate it or quantify, let you quantify it as a Y&L win. That was me. I done that.
Yeah. I think I read a book, it was Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, and there's a part in that book where it speaks about how you always position your client as a hero, and we do that. Like we never take credit.
Aye, so
shit.
it was us that done it.
It's
Okay,
not
fair enough.
like that. It's we position the client as the hero, and like we're literally just on the sidelines, just like cheering them on or helping them on. It is our job though to really. It's like on a sales call. Like see when somebody says, "Oh yeah, they just didn't buy because it just was they said it was just too expensive." It's like, well, you've not done your job properly then, leading up to the delivering of the price. Like you've not done your sales job properly. And then when I say to them like, what questions did you ask? And it's like, well, I asked them what their problems were and they never told me they didn't have any. It's like, well, your job as a salesman, mate, is to get that out of them. Like it's your job to ask different questions, to get different perspectives. And it's like there's an aspect to that where it's like it's your job leading up to that point to do the right thing. So like when a client gets a win, I'm not going, tell me right now how to trace that back to Y&L so I can put it on a testimonial. I'm just going, that's
brilliant.
Fucking amazing, mate. Like where do you think the turning point was? That could be anything. That could be fucking.
Aye, it might not be you. Aye, it
That
might
could
be
be
that
nothing to do
they
with us.
went to another training
could be
course or.
anything.
Aye, right, okay, fair enough.
be
No,
anything.
it's interesting. So you're now in a stage where you're trying to deliver more and more value for people who are paying so that they get more value from it,
Yep.
and you can increase those retainers and like, which then gives you more fuel to deliver more value.
Yep.
I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about your one-to-one coaching, but I also want to talk about your investment that you've made recently in Phil Graham.
Yep.
So we'll start with Phil. So talk to us about that process. Who's Phil?
Yep.
Why are we interested in the work that you've done with him, and what was that work?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a story that got me involved with Phil, and then that will kind of paint the picture of why we started working with him. We had a potential client at the time who was potentially wanting to join Y&L. Now back then this was about 2.5 years ago.
Yep.
I went to a coffee shop with him after he trialled. So we used to do trial sessions for the right people that I thought were absolutely perfect. We don't do that anymore. But back then we had a trial session. This guy came on. I thought he got a lot of value. I thought this is fucking class. Going to go to a coffee shop with him and then we're going to get him over the line. Sat at the coffee shop and he went, just to let you know, mate, I'm going to join another network. And I was like, cool, no worries. Like, if you don't mind, can I ask you a few questions about it? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, what's it called? And he was like, it's called the Authority Network. I was like, who is it that runs it? It's a guy called Phil Graham. And I was like, cool, like how much is it? And he was like, it's $4,000 up front and it's a $600 per month retainer. And I just went, woof. Like we were like 150 quid a month. And I was like, what the fuck? Like what is this guy doing? And he was like, yeah, he's got over 500 members and his LTV is like, a couple of years at least. And he promised to get me to 6 figures a year. And I just remember being like,
So see when you say
holy
promised,
shit.
does Phil Graham guarantee that?
Yeah.
Money back?
It's not necessarily money back, but it's like, no matter what, right? So when you look at the retention side of things,
Aye.
clients wouldn't be with him for 3.5 years if he didn't deliver on the promises he made.
Aye.
So it's like anything. I always say this as well. It's your job during the sales process to set the right expectations. If fucking Nick hopped on the first call with Mark and said, I'm going to make you fucking 150 grand over the next quarter, mate. If it's anything shorter than that, Mark's going to be like,
You said you've
said
actually
you were
technically you've technically not like fulfilled your end of the deal at that stage.
Yeah. So it's like it's your job to set the right expectations.
Yep.
So when it comes to like Phil's side of things, there's an aspect where if he's making that promise to someone, if it wasn't to be met, then they'll just leave. They just churn. So when I then met this guy months later, and I was like, "How's it going with Phil?" And he was like, "It's been class, mate. I've just went into his power room." And I was like, "What's the power room?" And he was like, "Well, it's a group for 6 and 7 figure business owners." And I went, "So you hit 6 figures?" And he was like, I hit it within like 6 months." And I was like, "Cool, that's class." And I was like, "How much is power room?" And he was like, "It's 12 grand up front, and it's 1.2k a month." And I was like, "And you paid that on top of what you previously paid?" And he was like, "I've probably invested like a good like 24-25 grand in the last 6 to 12 months in Phil." And I was like, what the fuck? What am I doing, man? Like 197 times 12 is fucking 2.4k. I mean, this guy's fucking paying 25 grand. So that was when I first came across Phil. Now, for anyone that doesn't know Phil, he runs the biggest mastermind group for fitness coaches. He's the most renowned coach within that space.
Yep.
He's been in there for fucking decades. And for us, we went to him because, one, aligned with his values. He speaks a lot about delivery, speaks a lot about retention, speaks a lot about meeting the promises that he makes to clients. And I consumed pretty much all of his podcasts, all of his content over the course of the last couple of years. Came across I've had a good couple of mentors that have been fucking great. I've had advisors come on board, which have been incredible. We just needed someone that has actually ran the business that we've ran at a successful like standard. Yep. Now, Phil's like put up a piece of content recently where he was like, last month he done 600 grand. And it's like, he's there and he's doing it, and he's been doing it for like over a decade. So it was just a no-brainer for us to spend 15 grand for 3 months coaching with him. 15
grand for 3 months coaching.
Yeah.
So you put up on your Instagram, like, we've invested this. 15 grand, 3 months coaching, and I text Nick and I was like, John has lost his fucking mind. And he was like, it's Phil Graham that he's working with, he'll get that back tenfold. And I was just like, right, I'm following this guy, and to be fair, his content's class. Yeah. So I can understand. But you said that you right away, you're seeing the value, you're
100%.
That was money well spent for you.
100%.
Can you work with him like once that 15 grand's expired?
Yeah, 100%.
Aye?
Yeah. Like, without a doubt. Like, he's
it's one session per month, so it's 5.5 hours of his time in total. 15 grand.
It's about 5.5 hours. But it's the one of the things that people don't understand is that, like, people equate time to the value, but what he's really got dialed is this 24/7 action plan. Mm-hmm. So you're getting your handheld like through the process. You're getting given the exact resources you need when you need them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, for us, big part of working with Phil was that we wanted to scale with more volume, so we wanted to sign more clients, but we were afraid that was going to impact churn. And we'd already kind of went through a period of churn where a few clients had kind of churned in one time. And when we went to Phil, it was like, okay, so you're just running a community. You're just running a network. Do you know why to do something more than that? Do you want to get people results? Do you believe you can get people results? And I was like, well, I'm doing it one-to-one, technically. And he was like, well, why the fuck would you not just try and do it one-to-many? And if you do it one-to-many, what does that mean that you can do? You can increase your pricing. And if you increase your pricing and you get results, people are going to want to stay for longer. And if you have the right ascension ladder, then people will just move up the ascension ladder. They'll go from standard YNL to the Immortals, from the Immortals into one-to-one, or they're going to need some sort of bespoke Notion build. And he was like, you're going to literally have an ascension ladder that people are going to send through if you can get a result in a one-to-many format. And that's one thing that all the top dogs speak about. See your initial offer that you're selling people?
Yep.
That needs to be like so fucking shit hot that it's ridiculous, so that like the retention off the back of it is not just them staying on that current membership, but it's the actual move up and they pay more. So like Nick, for example, Nick started on 150 quid a month. Nick now pays me, what, 1.5k a month for the one-to-one consultancy? And it's like...
And is it not tiered?
In terms of...
Results. So as his business grows, he then pays you an increment, as long as he's happy with us sharing that. I'll check that for
you. Yeah, you'll check that.
I'll check that, aye.
But yeah, no,
but as his business grows and he hits certain revenue markers, your fee will increase with that as well.
Yeah, or he'll pay like a percentage of it. So like, say for example, like essentially. So it's something that's results driven. It's incentivized. It's also something that, like, I feel like with a lot of the kind of coaching consultancy stuff, it's like you're paying. It's very transactional what you're paying for. Whereas for me, when I take that position of being in one-to-one, I see it as I'm operating like a co-owner, like a co-founder to these individuals' businesses. And for Nick, for example, Nick's someone that benefits so fucking much from just having someone in his corner to bounce shit off of regularly. And he also really values structure. So every single week, Nick knows off the back of our session exactly what he needs to do. And it doesn't matter whether there's fucking 15 things on the to-do list or whether there's 3. every single week we roll down to next week and he's fucking done every single one of them. And it's like every single time we're progressing.
The accountability is huge.
Yeah, 100%. He thrives in that. And as well, big part of the coaching side of things, which I've started to realise more and more, is that, see, when a client respects you, that accountability weighs 10x more. And when I say respect, I don't just mean like they respect you as a friend or whatever. Like I'm talking about like, see, when they genuinely feel not necessarily scared at the thought process of showing up and not doing it, but they value your opinion and they respect you that much more that they don't want to let you down. Like Nick's had times where like Alfie's fucking spewed all over him and fucking Ailsa's been unwell, and I think like he's one of his parents like fell and broke her leg at one point, and this all happened in the course of a week. And I had the biggest to-do list that I'd ever gave him, and when it rolled into Wednesday, this cunt was still up. He's messaged me at fucking 2:15 in the morning. Just like, no mate, that's that been ticked off. I'm like, he's a joke. He's an absolute machine.
That accountability, and again, Nick is one of 80 of your clients' members, obviously on different tiers, but tiers. He's one of 80 that you're trying to deliver that accountability and value for. Yeah. See, when we were talking about you reject, so 65 that you didn't even have calls with. Have you ever considered setting up like a secondary network for people? It's basically a network for everyone, and then you only take the good ones in, but you can still monetize the no's. Yeah, so what we're doing at the moment in terms of our ascension ladder, so the problem that we've got right now is that in order for people to pay us for stuff, they need to come into the one-to-many coaching network environment. Yeah. It's our job now moving forward to have things that are before that, so that we can nurture people into coming into the one-to-many rather than just selling directly into the one-to-many. Yeah. So within our essential... To protect the other people in the one-to-many. And also, like, there's some people, like, we're going to be more and more deliberate with the clients that we're bringing on in regards to revenue and where they're at as well. Right. So, because... So like a minimum entry level? Yeah, like an aspect to that, because it's something that, like... We've noticed that, like, say clients coming in, they're doing, like, say, like $2,500-3,000 a month, and it is consistent enough. That's a reflection of a stage that they're at. Okay. Whereas if someone's coming in and they've had no business experience before, they're maybe, like, just trying to leave their job. Like, their mindset is completely fucking different. Like, completely different. And it's something where the price itself will naturally weed out those that aren't as committed, that won't take as much action, that won't be as... Is it that they aren't as committed, or is it just at the early stage? Depends, man, because I'm thinking something that's in your network now that's at a much earlier stage. Yeah. Still got all those attributes, and I think that they would probably be a contributor in your network. Yeah. Obviously, I don't know because I'm not in your network, but you'll know better than me. But there's people who are much earlier in the process, but I would imagine are valuable people in the network. So, I'm sure you've considered this loads, but do you pull those people out of that network because they're not at a minimum level? Nah. So I'll make it this like super simple. People at these early stages, so before 10k per month, they think they need a network, and there's an aspect to that where they do need it because they feel alone, they don't really have anyone around them, their family don't understand, their friends don't understand, all that sort of shit. There is an aspect where they need that. But what they really need is the skills and resources and the education to get them to the stage where they can do 10k per month. So this sounds silly, right? But that's their ambition. Yeah. Is that's the people who you want in the network, which is fine. But what about if somebody's making $5,000 a month and quite happy, but they want the rest of it? It's something that like we'll understand the nuances with time. Like it's something that like I'm just because when we were talking to Danny before, he was talking about how overhiring, and the reason that he overhired is because everybody goes, how many's in your team now? Yeah. And it's like it's that metric that you. But actually, there's a lot of people who like have successful businesses. Yep. That 10k a month just seems to be something that kind of floats around a lot. Yep. Podcasts and business, like people talking about business is you need to make 10k a month. But actually, realistically, there's a lot of successful businesses that don't do that. I think I'll give you one example of like where my head's at with stuff like this. Whatever, like it's your job on that sales call to extract like all the problems you can solve, the tangible outcomes that you're going to get them off the back of them being solved, and how the fuck you're going to do it. Now, every client
has a different lane one.
Aye.
Like every client. So like when even like an example, one of our most
so
recent,
that it might be that they want to double the revenue,
Yeah.
but somebody else might want like to recruit 5 people. You're going to help them do that, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
right.
So it's like it's not necessarily like we'll have this kind of natural one shoe fits all marketing like level that will speak to our ideal client. But it's like even to this day, mate, I still get messages from people that are late 40s, early 50s, and they'll say, "Is there an age limit on this, mate? I'd
Young
love
and
to
lazy.
join." And it's like they
Is
know
there?
it's a network for young entrepreneurs. There's not, mate, but it's something that like it's
So
what.
you've not got a number. You've not got like you have to be under 40. You have to be under 45 to qualify into the.
Not necessarily, mate, because you could be a young entrepreneur and just started that business at that age.
Aye.
You're still technically a young entrepreneur.
That's
Like if you're like early 40s and you just start your business, you're still young in your business. You're still going through the same. Yes, albeit you have more life experience. You're still going through the same early stage growth of a business running a business, especially if you've worked in a 9 to 5 all your life. So yeah, like what I'm getting at is that like it's your job on a sales call to extract the exact things that they want and to create tangible outcomes, which is like if these problems are solved, you will get X, and we're going to help you solve them through this.
Right, okay.
And for each client, that's always going to be different, mate, for sure.
Right. If there's somebody in the room who was considering building a network, different like kind of sector to you, but we want to build a community, we want to deliver value. What would be if you had top 3, top 5 pieces of advice for someone who's going into that space?
Yeah. First thing, think about more than it just being the people aspect of it. So I'll never forget when we went to Phil's like the first strategy day. He like laid out like his like network ingredients, coaching ingredients of what he provides clients. 9 things were on there. One of those 9 was community. And I was like, interesting.
Aye, is it not all community? Is that what you mean?
I was just like, I built my whole business just on this one coaching ingredient.
Yep.
That he's got 8 other ingredients on top of it, which is what allows for me to charge the premium, right? So it's like, first thing is like think about it beyond just the people, beyond just the community. Think about how you can provide value as a person, and also how you can provide value at a mass scale as well. Second thing, spoke about it already, cut the shite, vet intensively, especially in the beginning. Like you don't just want any Tom, Dick and Harry. You don't want just like, here's the price on the website, just anyone who wants to join, just pay
sign
for
up
it.
and join.
Yeah. Like just get that to fuck. And what would the third thing be? Vetting, provide more value, and probably more recently in terms of how my identity is starting to shift more and more, just continue to think bigger. Continue to think bigger in terms of like what you can actually achieve and create, and it's something that you're going to start hitting goals pretty early on. Like for us, the 10k per month goal, that was like the utopia. And I remember one of our clients was like, just to be clear, mate, like you'll braze past that and you'll forget like that you even hit that, and you'll probably just hit like 20k per month like shortly after. We literally hit 10k per month, and then jumped like the second month it was like 17.5k, and then the next month it was over 20.
I remember that jump because you like you say you've been so open, and if anyone's interested, just follow John on Instagram.
Yep.
But I remember you documenting that jump, and it was to 17.5.
Yeah.
And Nick done the same when he started working with you, and he went from
7 to 20.
7 to 20.
Yeah.
And it's like that because it does kind of go like that once
Yeah,
once you
100%.
get your systems right, once you understand what your delivery is, what you understand what value you can bring to a client, you can very quickly like increase that.
A lot
It's
of
the same like model as what we're talking about the network. So.
Yeah. I think if like with this specific example that we're talking about, I think it aids you massively if you're a person of authority and have a lot of respect in that specific
100%.
niche that you're going into. For me, I didn't have anything. You know what I mean? I hadn't done anything prior apart from gaming. I had no business experience. That's taken me 4.5 years of calls every single day. Like when we talk about coaching, speaking about Phil, I mean, I've been through fucking Alex Becker's program. I've been through Jamie Lee Minor's program. I've been through fucking I've been mentored by like Gary Wilson, for example. There's fucking so many people that have stacked up, mate, that I've learned so much from, that's now allowing me to actually do the coaching side of things.
Yeah.
And it's something that, like, if we're speaking about Mark, for example, it's like you're one of the most respected people within that niche, which is going to give you so much authority, which means 1, you're going to charge a fucking fortune off the rip. 2, like, you have the thing that everyone wants, so it's really easy for them to connect the dots on, like, okay, I want what he's got. and I'll pay him whatever the fuck he wants.
What we're discussing is that some people will do that, and some people will go, fuck him.
But don't worry about that. But because like even with Phil, right? Like Phil as an example, I look at Phil and I'm like, Phil's got what like my like goal like is like that. He's got what that thing is, and it's like I can sit there and be like, oh, he's only got that because he got fucking lucky and he was early and all that sort of shit. But it's like, end of the day, I'm when I turn 50, if I have that mindset still, I'm going to be fucking miserable. I'm going to fucking hate my life. So at the end of the day, it's like just getting them to fuck it anyways. Like there's going to be clients that are going to be really growth orientated, man, that are going to be class, like absolutely class.
That's the perfect LinkedIn V cut there. Like, bang on. Right, two more things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
What have I actually written here? I've written relentless drive.
Yeah.
Every day, when I open my eyes, and the first thing you go onto Instagram and you're like, bang, here's what I'm doing today. 1, 2, 3. One of the things that you post your daily agenda every day, 6 o'clock, bang, I'm doing this today.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you always talk about is like pretty much your 6 in the morning till 9 in the morning is 3 hours working on the business.
Yeah.
And then you go working in the business.
Yeah.
Define each, talk me through what the difference is between working on the business and working in the business to you.
Working in the business to me is like anything like delivery orientated. So anything where you're actually doing the thing that you're providing.
Right.
On the business is basically working on higher leverage tasks that are going to get you make you more money, hire more staff. Eventually it should get to a stage where you're not really doing very much in the business anymore, and a lot of your on the business is actually just like training and leadership orientated stuff like Danny.
Because you're delegating all the in the business and you just work on.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So like up until when I look at like working on the business, if I'm thinking about like my working on the business to-do list right now, most of it is just marketing orientated. I'm almost like in like a marketing director like role. Like my job is to really dial the fuck in on our marketing. And when I looked at the turning point for me on this point, and hopefully this is perspective shifting for anyone listening, when I went through Alex Becker's program, he had a part on it where he said, if you want to get ahead of 99% of other entrepreneurs, work for 3 hours a day on your business and you will dominate whatever niche you're in. And he was like, because nowadays people can't fucking focus without checking their phone. They can't even fucking work on their business because they're so in the business that like they literally are just in so deeply within a routine. And everyone thinks that everything's a fucking emergency as well. It's like, oh, what if my team phones me, or what if so-and-so phones me, or what if this comes up, or whatever.
So funny, because I've been working with Dale Crosser.
Yeah.
And I mean, PT, jump in an hour,
yeah.
And he's like, you can put your phone on workout mode, which is where you can basically block all notifications except like emergency notifications. Yeah. And I was like, what's that much? I mean, apart from like maybe like my kid's school or something like that, like what is that much of an emergency that it can't wait 55 minutes until I finish in the gym?
So you can set up, like, once again, this is where expectations are important. You can set up the right infrastructure to allow for you to work like in deep state, like really easily. So for me, for example,
what do you do there?
Apple Watch is on, right? Phone, I'll take a picture of it and show you it. I've got a cabinet to my right hand side that I put my phone in.
Yeah, right.
And it's still in range where it still connects to my Apple Watch. So if anyone phones me from my like top contacts, it will come through. So if my mum phones me, my gran phones me, Bex phones me, any of those sorts of people phone me, it will come through on my watch and I'll be able to check it. But I don't get notifications for anything else. No text messages, none of that shit.
So also 6 till 9 in the morning is the time you normally do it, which is the time where like no one's expecting an answer at that point. No one.
Exactly. And
if a client was annoyed at me that I didn't respond to them between the hours of 6 in the morning and 9 in the morning, they wouldn't be a client for very long. Yeah. Because like that's the time that I'm like feeding my kids, taking them to school. So no one's actually expecting a response from you at that time either.
And I think that's where like with Alex Becker in his program it was different. He was doing from 4 a.m. until 2 p.m. every day. That was his on the business time, so it was 10 hours. And then he'd do roughly 2 hours of in the business, make sure team's good from like 2 until 4. But Alex is very different from me. He's very, like, I could tell from his program that he was super direct, man, really intense, whereas I'm not as intense as that. But yeah, like when it comes to that side of things, it was like just hearing that from someone that sold a company for 200 plus mil of just like, you work for 3 hours a day on the business, you get ahead of 99% of other entrepreneurs. And what it really allows you to do, mate, like when the first time that I actually set it in my routine, I had a hefty to-do list of things that needed fixed. Bottlenecks, problems within the business, things I wasn't happy with. Eventually, if you do 3 hours a day, or even just start with an hour a day, you'll get through that list, and it'll get to a stage where it'll actually reverse, and you'll go from fixing shit to improving shit to basically just fucking innovating and just like getting fucking, that's where like your big ideas come from. That's where like big opportunities start to arise, where you can start putting more time into things, and it's something where you actually start to get ahead of the curve. And what that allows for you to do, so for us, for example, we invested in Phil in that was a couple months ago now. We invested in Phil because we knew that we were going to have a large period of churn coming up. Lo and behold, last month we had fucking 7 clients churn out in the space of a couple of weeks. Why? Because I'm working on the business and I can see this coming already ahead of time. So you're able to act, whereas a lot of people, if they don't work on the business, it fucking smacks them in the face. What happens? They lose clients, they lose income, they start shitting themselves, they don't sleep, they're like, oh my god, what the fuck is going on? And then at that point, they start working on things and improving things because they realise they need to. Whereas, if you just have time working on the business, you get rid of all those bottlenecks, and you'll be ahead of the curve, and it'll be so easy to just work on shit ahead of time.
And just being proactive rather than being reactive to these things coming up.
Yep, that's it to a T.
Brilliant. Right, okay.
Yep.
There was one other thing I wanted to talk to you about.
Yep.
I think you done, was it a year's worth of these high performance days you done?
Yeah.
You still doing that?
No.
Do you want to talk us through it?
Yeah, sure. So 2 things that were the kind of turning point for this. I done a Thriver test, which is like a blood test. Done a blood test, sent it away, came back saying that my cholesterol levels were highly abnormal for a 22-year-old, and that I was literally at risk of heart attack. Now this is when I was fucking 24,
right?
And I was smacked me right in the face. I was like, what the fuck? That's bizarre. So I was like, something needs to change. And for me, I hate running. I was really fit growing up because I love football. And it's I play fives every week now, for example, and it's I play fives because that's the cardio that I can do very easily because I just love football. But it's something that I fucking hated as well. So there was 2 components of it. 1, needed to get fit. 2, I fucking hated it. And I had the thought process, I'd been watching a lot of Goggins and stuff like that during that time period, and it was you know what, man, I'm going to put myself in discomfort every single week at the same time, no excuses. I'm just going to get up at Monday, 4 o'clock, you're going to put on your clothes and you're going to run. And you're just going to run for however long you fucking want. But the bottom line is, you need to get up, you need to put your clothes on, and you need to go out. No snoozing your alarm, none of that shit. You go out, you run. And it was just once a week, nothing crazy, I didn't do it every day. It was just every Monday of every week. And I'll tell you fucking what, man, see, I done it on, Christmas Day? New Year's Day? Because Monday landed on Christmas and New Year's Day fucking that year there. So I fucking had to get up on Christmas Day. My mum's the night before, she's like, it's Christmas Eve. She's like, you better not be going out to run tomorrow. I was like, I fucking tell you I am, by the way, because I said I was going to do it. I said I was doing it for a year straight, and I said I was doing it for every Monday at 4 a.m. And I was like, I didn't know it was going to fucking land on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, but I'm just going to do it anyways. And I just done it. And it's what that actually allowed for me to do was build the discipline that I would do the things that I said I was going to do. Eventually, after about 6 months in, it just got in the way, to be honest, because it was I'd done it long enough.
You've created the habit. You've proved to yourself that you've got the discipline to actually see something through. Yeah. The running then becomes a byproduct of what you're then intrinsically getting from it.
That's what makes it so easy now for me to just get up at 5:30 and just be at my desk for 6. Because I used to
did you not get more from the getting out, fresh air, that kind of thing, or is it you're quite happy to be dialed in?
I'm so happy to be dialed in, mate. It was something that Hormozy said at one point. Hormozy was so many people will get up.
I seen it. I know exactly what you're going to say. Don't impose what you think is right on me.
And also, it's people will rather get up and mentally masturbate over a bunch of different things, cold shower, out a run, all that sort of stuff, because they would rather do all those things to then do the work. Whereas for me, if I get up and I'm I know I've got a big to-do list and I've got shit that needs done and I've got a couple of fires to fight, it's I don't, I'm most productive in the morning as well. So I actually started using the runs in the gym, now that it's been and gone, so I finished it in March of this year. Now that it's been and gone, I'll go to the gym or I'll do any sort of exercise, midday split, I'll reset my day. So it's get up at 5:30, get up at 6, whatever time round about that time window, I'll be at my desk between 6 and 6:30, and I'll just run it the fuck up. And see when it hits 1 p.m, I'll start to plateau, I'll start to feel a bit like lethargic, I'll need some food in me. I'll do a reset of some sort by going and doing some sort of exercise.
Aye.
And then when I come back, say it's 2:30, I'm able to get another few hours in. And it just makes for major levels of productivity. Whereas if I'm getting up at 4 to then go a run, I then don't have a reset midway. And I just end up sitting at my desk like, whoa, I'm fucking knackered.
There's people watching this on YouTube that want me to say this, right?
Yeah.
When you have kids, you're coming back on this podcast. John, legend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was class, mate. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching. If you did get a bit of value from this, hit subscribe, share it with someone. We'll see you on the next episode.